welcome to Sideways. This week, we're talking about the different ways in which people approach recovery and why there aren't any shortcuts. I make a rare mistake with the recording. We talk about Lucozade and the best cheeses to involve in crime. How to recover.
Because you made at least some sort of a step forward.
Yes, exactly.
Before you go on, I need to tell you that I just realised that I wasn't recording.
Oh my God! Where? What? Not at all.
I don't think so. No. So we'll need to record a bit at the start again. So just to bring everyone up to speed, the bit of the conversation you missed was me talking about. We were both talking about our fondness for Lucozade when we were children, and how Lucozade didn't really aid recovery, which actually Martin used as a very smart segue into what he wanted to talk about today, which is ways of recovering from one's addiction. And how do you like that? It was quite good, wasn't it?
It was a good recovery, which is quite a good word to be using here. I think it was a good recovery from your incompetence of getting the recording set up correctly to where we are now. So good. Good on you.
And just to bring us right up to speed, you had then begun to tell us a story about someone who'd rung you a couple of weeks ago who was still drinking and had asked for your advice as to how they could best approach recovery. And
yeah, exactly. I'm amazed you were actually listening to me. So good on you. Well done, you.
so the bit where you were telling us about how you initially made contact with a GP and got in touch with the Recovery Hub, I think we've got. So you can kind of pick up the story from there if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yes, just to recap on that part, I think it's when personally for me is making that call to go to initially to the doctor and then the subsequent call once he'd given me the information to go to the local recovery hub. It was the weight that lifted off my shoulders at that point because I was actually doing something about it. Mm. And I think, after I'd finished this conversation with this person a couple of weeks ago, they said exactly the same thing almost at that point. So I'm really glad I've spoken to you because, I feel like I'm actually doing something about it now. It's the first time they'd ever really done anything about it. They just toddled along, as we all do in addiction.
Did they talk about one of the questions that I ask people quite frequently? It depends on what they've come for, really. But when someone's had something that has been a hindrance to them leading an enjoyable life for years and years and years, like addiction, I'm always interested to know from people why now. Why have you decided now to take action? And that person that you were talking about sounds very much as if it's someone who had reached the point where they just decided, right, I've got to take action. But it always interests me what it is about someone's situation or someone's life that finally causes them to say, right, that's it. I've reached the point now where I've got to get help.
You get fed up with it. You tend to get to the point where you're fed up with the process of drinking and it not giving you the same sense of relief that it used to. Mm-hmm. And your tolerance has risen to a point where the more you drink, it doesn't really release your mind from the agonies that have been going on around you, which you use drinking drugs for in the first place. Yeah. So you get to the point where you're running out of options, really. But most people, virtually everyone I speak to, and this happens also early on in groups, is that as well, that people say that they want to work out a way where they can reduce their drinking down and drink socially again.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
I know it's an old chestnut, and that's what I went into recovery for initially. I thought, I'll tell you what I do. I'm just going to cut down and get to a point where I can just drink, the same as everyone else and not have an issue with it. Now, I've never found anyone that's been able to do that so far. It's nigh on impossible. But a lot of people will, if someone said to you, I'll ask you, what do you think if someone says, how do I go about recovery? Are there groups out there that are available to help me? What do you think you would say? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Well, most people comes to mind when they think about going to a meeting or whatever. About sorting out.
AA would be the first thing that would come to mind.
Exactly. And that's still the biggest. Everyone thinks about AA, and there's there's a stigma about going to them as well, but going to an AA meeting. So it's you've got to get yourself ready.
Because of the religious aspect.
There is a religious aspect. I think the stigma doesn't come from that. The stigma comes from the fact that you're admitting you've got a problem the minute you walk through those doors.
Do you think because there is, pretty much any route you take, whether you go AA or you go to different sort of peer support, and the fact that there might be a need for detox and you need to go and talk to your GP because you need to give up drinking safely, pretty much every one of those routes is a route that requires you to kind of front up the problem and talk about it with someone, right? So do you think that obviously that by association there is a stigma with all of those things because you've got to admit to sometimes total strangers that you've got a problem with drink? Do you think that's one of the reasons why people try different methods like, I'll cut down, or I'll just try and stop with willpower, or I don't know, read a self-help book or something? Do you think that's one of the reasons why people try to go those routes, because they feel it kind of saves them from the, for want of a better word, shame of having to discuss with someone else what they've got a problem with? Yeah,
that is a massive issue. But I think that if you can persuade people, I always try and persuade them to take that first step, because it's not just the relief you feel when you are making progress. It's the relief you feel from being in the company of other people that have got exactly the same condition as you, and you suddenly realise you're not alone. Yeah. Most people, when they're going down this path where the addiction's getting worse, it's getting really bad, don't think anyone else has got the same problem as them. And so it's such a relief. It's very cathartic to go and talk to people about it who understand you. So I always recommend, to go to meetings, and the peer support groups like the Aspire to Be one, which I'm involved with. To me, that was by far the best way forward.
But whatever route you take, you can't, the bottom line is you can't avoid the hard yards, can you?
No, you can't. How do you? So if someone has then got their addiction under control and they come back to you and say, right, I'm ready to crack on with things now. I mean, do you work on there on changing thought process, for example? Do you look at CBT, or do you look at how do you deal with them at that point?
Well, I mean, there probably would be some CBT techniques in there, but I think there would be more. For me, there'd be more emphasis on. Why do you find yourself here? What was the role that addiction was playing for you? What was it stopping you thinking about? What was it blocking out? And why were you blocking it out? As we've discussed before, addiction is often a way of not feeling things. It stops you from having to feel things. In therapy is all about helping you to confront those things you don't want to feel, so that you can get the other side of them. So I think that would be the work of therapy. I mean, in terms of changing people's thought patterns, I know it's a bit of a therapeutic trope, but it's not. I can't change anyone. It's not my job to tell anyone what to do or to, So I would never, if I was doing therapy with someone who was a recovering alcoholic and they said, "Well, I'm going down the pub after this," I wouldn't say, "No, don't do that," because that's not my role. I think. My role is to ask them about why they think that might be a good thing to do. What's going on? What are you feeling that's making you want to do that? So, I think once you kind of cross the line in therapy from trying to help someone understand themselves to trying to tell them how to live their lives, then, that's a problem. And I think actually that's one of the reasons why peer support is so important, because in peer support, you're going to be getting from your peers, people in a peer support group will be telling you clearly, well, that sounds like a bit of a red flag. You don't want to be doing that. You should do something different, because that's what that peer support group is about. But therapy is not about that. Therapy is about helping someone understand themselves better so they can make better choices for themselves. Does that answer your question?
It does. I mean, it comes up. I mean, just this week, on one of our meetings, one of our online meetings, someone was on there who had recently come out of detox, and they were suddenly confronted with emotions that were starting to upset them a little bit, with anxiety and that sort of thing, because obviously for so many years they had been suppressing those emotions, as we all do in addiction, which is one of the reasons we take we take drugs or we drink to excess, is to block them out. And so when you stop, all these emotions come flooding back, and that's why I think it'd be really nice if therapy was available to those people at that point, because I think it's when they start to feel emotionally raw that there's a great temptation to leap back into their old habits again.
I mean, this is actually one of the reasons why a lack of therapy at that point in someone's recovery is such a terrible shame, because for people like that, they probably don't actually need that much. They need to be helped to understand how to handle their own emotions, and that those emotions that they're feeling are not unusual. If you haven't felt those emotions for so long because you've been drinking and you've been blocking them out, to suddenly be confronted with them is terrifying. But in some respects, being able to recognise that that's okay, that that might be painful, that might be uncomfortable, it's not going to hurt you. You will get through that emotion, and then another one will come along. I think I said a few weeks ago, when we feel happy, we don't want to hasten our way through happiness and think, oh, let me quickly get through this. But we feel the same way about sadness. We don't have to, because as sure as something will follow happiness, something will also follow sadness. It might be anger, it might be something else. But, there's this kind of fear, and I see it a lot in people who have addiction problems, not just people that have addiction problems. There's this fear that if we get stuck in an emotional state, that we'll be there, we'll stay there. Well, you won't. But sometimes it's that fear that we're going to stay in an emotional state that keeps us in it. I mean, anxiety is a classic example of that. We feel anxious about being anxious. And what result does that have? It makes us more anxious. So if you feel anxiety, you think, okay, this anxiety is horrible, but if I just leave it alone, it will pass, then it passes more quickly. But it's hard to know how to do that if you've spent years and years and years blocking it all out.
That's a good answer, because, again, the general consensus of opinion on the meeting was, and certainly I said to this particular person exactly what you said there. That emotions are transient. They will. You might find times you are able to white knuckle a little bit. Yeah. But they will pass. And you will get into a better place. And as time goes by, those, certainly for me, those feelings of anxiety and depression to a certain extent as well, they got further and further apart, as time went by, and we were saying really the pivotal moment in your recovery is when those start to settle down, because at that point you're less likely to start to want to go rushing back to your old habits. But I think what you talked about hypnosis earlier on, because this comes up as well from time to time, when people say to me, well, I think surely there must be hypnosis around. People do it for giving up smoking and that sort of thing. Surely. I should be able to do it for giving up drink or drugs. And what's your take on that position?
Well, yes, it's true that hypnosis can be useful in helping someone do something like give up smoking. But at the root of that is always the same thing, which is motivation and desire. So the reason I'm very kind of skeptical about the role that hypnosis can play in helping someone to stop drinking is really for no other reason than when people ask for hypnosis to stop drinking, in my experience, mostly what they're really saying, their subtext is, I don't really want to stop, but I'd like to want to stop. Can you make me want to stop? Which is very different from, I really want to stop, but I'm struggling with my motivation. I'm struggling with the self-belief. That's where people often are with smoking. So when people come with smoking, I still ask them the same question. I say to them, do you want to stop smoking, or do you want to stop smoking? And if they say, I want to stop, I say, well, you're wasting the time then, because I can't make you want to stop. I can help you kind of draw on your natural resources if you really want to, but you don't really believe in yourself. But I can't make you want something you don't want. And you and I have had this discussion often. To me, any hypnotherapist that says, "Oh, I can make you want something," is a charlatan. So the big difference to me between smoking and addiction or other addictions is that more often than not, when someone's got to the point where they want to stop smoking, they really are tired of smoking. They want to stop, but they just lack the belief that they can. In fact, I think most smokers would like to stop. I don't think there are that many smokers that say, oh, I smoke and I really enjoy it. I think most of them think, I don't really like it. I mean, it's so socially unacceptable now anyway, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference, but more often than not, people who want to give up drink, they want to be made to want to give up. That's the problem. And which goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You know, it's an understandable desire not to have to do the hard work, but I have to explain to them that actually there isn't any route around the hard work. The hard work's got to be done, and I can't do it.
And I think that's what scares people a little bit about it. But I find again that I think using the phrase hard work can be a little bit off-putting sometimes. I think it's just, if you use the phrases like, you know, you're going to have to invest in yourself a little bit here, because you're going to need to put a little bit of spade work in to get some of the rewards out, which are vast. And so, you know, looking at what the benefits are of recovery, it makes then the route through to that sound a little bit easier.
It's interesting that, and I'm sure that's true. And I think that it's different for different people. You know, I remember a therapist friend of mine once said, in therapy, if you ever finish your session more tired than your client, something's gone wrong. And it's A, it's true, but B, the reason it's so important is because therapy's hard work. And most of the time, I don't shy away from telling people this is going to hurt. This is going to be hard for you. You're going to be tired. Sometimes you're going to want to give up. And when you most want to give up and you feel like it's not going anywhere, they're the times you've really got to hang in there. It's also the time that therapist really earns their money, because you have to kind of hold someone through that period of, I don't know, plateauing, where they feel like nothing's happening. They come in every week and they tell you the same stuff, and you look at them and you think you're just going around in circles at the moment, aren't you? You're stuck. It's really hard to be stuck. But I think sometimes it's really useful to tell people this might be really hard, but that shouldn't be what puts you off it. Because for most of us, if we know that something's going to be really difficult, but our lives are going to be significantly better off on the other side of it, I think we do it. I think the thing that stops us doing the hard work is we don't really believe it will lead us to where we want it to lead us. And I know that's true with addiction, because quite often people go into recovery not knowing or not being able to remember what life was like before addiction. And that makes it really hard for them.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's why when the peer support groups and the fellowships work well, where you can see people that have done it and are reaping the rewards, because it's quite easy to tell someone that things are going to get easier and things are going to get better. You're going to feel much better down the line. But if they actually see someone that's walked that path, then it did for me. It was more of an understanding of the situation and gave me great hope. Mm. But I think, so just going back to the hypnosis thing, so if people are looking for that, there are people out there advertising to say that they can offer hypnosis for addiction issues, for addiction problems, including alcoholism. Mostly in the US, I must say, but you do get them. And really, they shouldn't be entertained then, is that what you're saying? Well,
I can't really say that, because I don't pretend to be the oracle on hypnosis. All I can say is I would never tell anyone I can do that.
No.
Now, it might be that there are hypnotherapists somewhere that can. I don't know. I guess the real kind of evidence of that is someone who's in recovery, having been to hypnosis, and that being the kind of key that changed everything for them. I'm not saying those people don't exist. I'm just saying I've never met any.
No, I haven't either.
So they're to me, they're the two clinchers. I've never met anyone that said, well, I didn't really want to give up, but I went to hypnosis and then I suddenly wanted to give up, and I've never drunk since. I've never met anyone like that. And I would never offer someone that, because to me, it's unethical for me to say I can do something that I know I can't.
Yeah, I think it's all wrapped up in there aren't any shortcuts to it, are there? You've got to go through the process, and you get the rewards when you put the hard work in, or put the work in.
Yeah, and the process is what it is. Sometimes it'll be hard, sometimes it won't be.
Yes, well, I'm glad you've cleared up a few points there. I wanted to talk to you about the therapy bit, because I know people sometimes ask me about it, and they're a bit worried about, taking that step as well. The same as they would have been worried about going into recovery. The step of going to a therapist can be quite daunting as well, which is why I think you've just dispelled some of the fears there. So I think I've got from you what I wanted out of this episode. So thanks, mate. I'm almost bigging you up, and I feel bad about doing that.
Yeah, well, you would do. Yeah, I think the most just the final thing, the most important thing about therapy to me is the relationship.
Okay.
I think one of the reasons that people struggle with therapy sometimes is that when they've made that decision to get over the threshold in the first place, which is difficult, as you say, quite often people think, right, now I've done it, I better stick with whoever this is that I've chosen. And I think it's important to recognise that not every therapist is right for every person. So if you do make that decision, and you do have the kind of courage to go and see someone, talk to them about your stuff, don't settle for someone that you don't feel connected with. If you feel like there's something not right here, this isn't working, stop and do it again. I often tell people, I say to people, I might not be right for you. If I'm not right for you, that's fine. You shouldn't feel bad about saying, actually, this isn't working for me, I need to go somewhere else, because I can't be right for everybody. As lovely as I am, I can't possibly be.
Well, I think that sums it up about about recovery as a whole as well. There's not just one route. No. There's lots of different routes through, and you have to find the one that suits you. And I'm a big believer in sort of using a mixture of them anyway. And you'll find that which route suits you best, and you tend to end up concentrating on that. It's the same as in the 12-step program, where you'll have a sponsor, which is someone that will help you through to understand and help you through the 12 steps. And again, you may not get the right sponsor first time round. Yeah. It may not be something you click with, exactly the same as you talk about in therapy. So, make sure you change the sponsor, or to change direction, try something else. So it is, what you've told me I think is really important. So thank you for that. But more importantly of that, what have you learnt this week?
Oh, crikey, this question. Let me think. Have you learnt something else this week then?
Yeah, I have.
Blimey.
Well,
okay. I can't think of anything. I've probably learned lots of things this week, but I can't think of anything particular.
Well, I didn't tell you this was going to be a regular feature, did I? I've sprung it upon you just to see how you're. It's quite good to see you squirm.
Thanks. Yeah.
No, all I've learnt this week is that cheese is the most shoplifted item in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you find that out from Richard Madeley?
He was a bit light-fingered in his time, wasn't he?
Was it him, or was it Anthony Worrell Thompson that stole cheese?
That was the chef. Didn't he steal? I thought he stole chickens or something, didn't he? But I think they've all been on the fiddle, haven't they? All been on the take.
These celebrities, you can't take them anywhere.
You can't. They like the old 5-finger discount, that's for sure.
How did you find that out then? That cheese is the most lifted substance?
I had to look it up because someone was talking about. I was reading something about why people shoplift in addiction. The obvious reason is that because they need to get the money to feed their habit. Yeah. And so I was just reading around that, and it turns out that meat is quite popular, but cheese seems to be the most. It gets stolen the most, not just by addicts, by other people. I think it's quite easy to move on.
It's easy to fence, is it?
It is very easy to fence, but I think it's also quite easy to steal. It's
easy to get in your pocket, isn't it? I mean, it's pocket
exactly.
Size, isn't it?
It is. You don't want to encourage people to go out and do that, but in retail, the most. Well, I'll ask you, what do you think apart from food? Then, if there's a certain item that you think, that would be quite popular to steal.
It's not a food.
Yes, something other than food. Yes.
Okay, I've got 2 guesses.
Okay, go on then. Try them both.
Batteries.
That didn't come up, but go on.
Razor blades.
Yes, razor blades was one of them. It's razor blades and ink cartridges. They seem to be very popular because they seem terribly overpriced for what they are.
Yeah.
And so I think people will steal them for their own purposes, not to move on, not to fence, but for their own purposes.
Well, I use a lot of razor blades for scoring the top of loaves before I put them in the oven. So,
do you?
Yeah. So that'd be quite a good thing for me to nick.
Yeah. I'm not giving you ideas, am I? I'm not going to have to come and bail you out.
No. I think the main reason I wouldn't nick stuff like that is because I wouldn't want to get caught.
Yeah, exactly.
My fear of being caught would be far in excess of my desire to save a bit of money on razor blades, which are, of course, as you say, massively overpriced.
Yes, yeah, I know they are. But we'll talk about that at another time. I think about.
Sure, so if you were stealing cheese, what cheese would you steal?
I don't know. I suppose you'd have to steal something that's easy to move on that everyone likes. Probably a mature cheddar.
I wasn't thinking of moving on. I was thinking of eating it myself.
Oh, for myself? Oh, I'd probably go for a nice goat's cheese, obviously.
Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, no, that's foul.
What?
I think I'd go for a Gruyere because quite often in the supermarkets they're in quite sort of large but thin wedges. I think they'd be quite easy to get in the inside pocket of your jacket.
Would they? Oh, okay. So yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
I think I'd wear a coat. I'd wear a coat with an inside pocket, and I reckon I could get 2 or 3 Gruyères in there, and maybe a wedge of Danish blue down my belt buckle or something. Oh, you disappeared. You must have gone down Aldi for some cheese. Oh no, there you are.
No, my battery's just going low. That was all.
Right.
Yes.
We should wrap up now. We've been going on far too long today.
Well, we haven't talked about our guilty pleasures either. Our last guilty pleasure.
Is it songs? Is it songs still?
Yeah. Well, if we was doing one more, we need to make it up to 5. I think, weren't we?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Well, tell us what yours is then.
Have you got one then? Okay.
Yeah, I've got one. Yeah, I've got one.
Okay. Mine's going back a little bit, really. To the great Perry Como.
Oh, stop it now! Come on.
The track I've chosen is Perry Como. For the good times. It's a very sentimental song.
It feels to me like you're channeling your mother.
I think perhaps that's what it's all about. Yeah,
I think it is. I mean, I might as well have gone for something by some sort of Brahms violin concerto or something. I'm channeling my father.
I don't remember my mum liking Perry Como, but she probably did. It probably subliminally.
That's even worse. If your mum didn't like Perry Como, that means you've liked him off your own bat, which is disgraceful.
I like this particular track. You know, I'm not a big Como all-round fan, but for the good times, yeah, it's great. It can make you cry a little bit.
Dear, oh dear, that's
it's a moving song. Okay, what's yours then?
Mine is I'm going back to the 70s again.
Okay.
Mine is Gilbert O'Sullivan.
Don't tell me the track yet. I've got to stop laughing over the actual artist.
Well, which track do you think it is?
It could be Claire.
Yeah, it'd be Claire. I was going to choose Get Down, but but Claire's got a lovely melody. So, and whenever I think about it, I think, I just feel like singing that. So, yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
It's I wouldn't put it in my top 10 of greatest hits of all time, but because yours is full of bloody crooners, isn't it? I'm surprised you didn't have Frank Sinatra in there. Or in fact, it's probably only a short step from where you've been to flipping Michael Ball. No, I wouldn't be having any of that, that's for sure.
Oh, says Perry Como and Valdunican fan Martin.
I think that's time to end this one, don't you?
It is, because if for no other reason, because I've got to go and cook dinner, because you know what's on tonight, don't you?
I don't know. Probably something that you watch that I really don't like. Probably like Strictly or the Great.
Strictly's not on flipping Tuesday evenings. What's the matter?
Oh, God knows. Bake Off.
Yes, it's back tonight. Fantastic.
Is it? Yeah, we'll have to avoid that. That's for sure.
Well, I don't know why you don't like Bake Off. It's fan-dabby-dozy.
I'll play a bit of Grand Theft Auto instead.
Yeah, well, I hope you haven't got addicted to that. I know what you're like.
Well, yeah, it's your fault. You dealt it to me, didn't you?
How far through are you now?
Oh, I'm only like 6% or something like that. So it's early very early on. I'm struggling with it all, to be honest. But
you'll still be working your way through that when the latest COVID restrictions are lifted.
It'll give me something to do if we get locked down fully again. I should get good at GTA.
All right, okay. I'll speak to you soon.
Well, I hope you can make sense of this. And after your appalling way of dealing with the recording at the start of the episode, where you didn't bother to push the record button.
Yeah, well, we have technical troubles at one time or another, don't we?
We do, yeah. Okay, mate.
All right. Laters. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work, visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter and on our Facebook page at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us to let us know what you think of the show or with any questions that you might have. And finally, we want to thank you for listening and ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week. Checking the bottle, the level is rising to danger. Spiraling up to the surface, all I left behind. And hail may fall on us all. So maybe I might be a little quiet today. Don't get the idea that I'm thinking of you anyway. I'm just down. It's so peculiar, the speed that my humor is falling. I know it's funny, the joke isn't on me at all. And hail may fall on us all. So maybe I might be a little quiet today. Don't get the idea that I'm thinking of you anyway. I'm just down. Though I can turn every chill to a thrill, I'll turn water into a wine.